So I'm Lori Lamont, and I am so excited to be here today. A few months ago, I had one of those connecting the dot sort of aha moments. And after I was done processing all the information, my next thought, my next vision was me standing right here and sharing with all of you. So thank you for being part of my vision, and having it become a reality. The title for my talk today is Tapping into Spirit. And because I'm an EFT practitioner, I literally do mean tapping into spirit. Now, tapping is a form of acupressure, where we tap on the meridian channels. The meridian channels are what's carrying our energy through our body. It's also called EFT because that stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, because it really does free you of any emotional charge that you may have attached to any issue, any problem, anything. EFT is used for pretty much anything you can think of, but specifically physical pain, addictions, phobias, traumas, weight loss, PTSD. My personal favorite is limiting beliefs, but really you can use it for anything. And you'll see as I talk a little more about it. About a year ago, I started learning about the amygdala, which is this almond-shaped small part of our brain, and it's essentially responsible for your fight or flight response. It's your survival mechanism. And essentially, when we were cavemen, we needed this, right? We needed this to survive. We needed this to turn into the human beings that we are today. When we were cavemen, the amygdala was great because it would keep track of, first of all, it would put us in that fight or flight mode if we needed to flee or fight, but it kept track of where our dangers were so we wouldn't experience them again. It also kept track of where we were within our tribe, because there were no, I would have to assume that there were no loner cavemen out there, right? You needed your tribe to survive. So it was always comparing, it was keeping track of how you were within your tribe. Well, as we have evolved into these amazing human beings that we are today, our amygdala has evolved. And since we're not in grave danger of, tigers hanging out in corners or anything like that, it's protecting us from embarrassment, failure. It's constantly comparing us to our peers and to our friends and our family. It's judging. Does this sound like anything to anyone? Yeah. Sounds like the ego, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm learning about this, the light bulbs are going off, and it's like, oh my God, there's a scientific term for the ego. This is fantastic, right? Because now that means this is, it's not just that little voice in the back of your head. It's not just an idea of an ego. It's just real. It's hardwired into your brain. So the more I learned about the amygdala, I decided to dive into it a lot deeper a few months ago. And I learned that when it activates this fight or flight response, what it's doing is it shuts down all non-essential body functions and brain functions, which makes sense if we're being chased by a tiger. I mean, I get it. I don't want my body to be worrying about healing that whatever issue I have, or digestion or metabolism. I don't want my body to be thinking about any of those things. I want my body to be focused on surviving. But that's what's happening when it's worried about being embarrassed or not being good enough, which is not what its original purpose was. So if anyone is ever experiencing, if anyone here is ever experiencing chronic, digestive problems, or if you're finding it's difficult to lose weight, or if you just seem to keep getting sick, or it's hard for you to heal, you're going to want to look at how often is your amygdala activating that fight or flight response, which is essentially your ego. But this is where it gets good. The amygdala shuts down non-essential brain functions. So here's the list of non-essential brain functions. Are you ready? Intuition, creativity, reasoning, rationality, imagination, all of the things that we would consider ways that spirit is communicating to us. How we're hearing through our mind. We're always knowing if we're in alignment with spirit because we can feel it. We always know if we're feeling good or feeling. But as far as the ideas that are coming to us in our mind, if we have a fight or flight response activated, those are all shut down milliseconds before you know what's going to happen. It's actually, scientifically, its term is hijacking the mind. That's actually what it's known as. So this happens, and I'm sure a lot of people here are saying, well, how often could I possibly be in a fight or flight mode? You know, not normally in danger. Well, most people, it's a few times a day. Some people, it's been proven, some people just never seem to get out of it. They're just always in that mode. They're always in that high stress mode. And we all know when we're not in alignment. So when you're not in alignment, there's a bigger picture happening. There's something happening hardwired in your mind. The good news is you can change it. It's not hopeless. You're not stuck with it. And by tapping, we can change it. So I'm going to give you my story. This was the story that pushed me to want to learn more, to go and get trained, to go and get certified and accredited, and to help other people, because it was amazing. So let me share my story. I've always, I shouldn't say always, as an adult, with my 4 children, I've hated taking them to the dentist. And I know hate is a strong word, but I was pretty sure that the dentist husband who ran the office was a real, you know what. And I just couldn't stand him. Every time I walked into that office, this was me. And I was angry, and I was frustrated, and he was a jerk, and, right? So I took my 2 older girls to the dentist. One comes out and says, I have 2 cavities. The next one comes out and says, I need 4 sealants. And I'm like, this $300 visit just went up to, an $800 visit. Who's going to pay? I'm all upset. I'm like, I'm not going to book this appointment now. I'm storming out of the place, because that was just me, a jerk every time I went to the dentist's office. So, and I'm not usually a jerk, but so there I was a few days later, and this is still stewing in me. I'm still like upset, because I know I have to take 2 more children to the dentist the following week, and I don't want to go back. It was awful. It's going to be even worse, because the next 2, one of them really has a problem with the dentist's office. So I'm sitting in my car, and I had about half an hour to kill. I was waiting for my children, and I had this little voice that said, why don't you tap on it? And I hadn't tapped on anything in probably, 6-8 months. I didn't tap often. I'd read a book about it, and that was about it. I dabbled. So I really, not really trained in the matter, So what I'm saying is, any of you can do this. You don't have to be formally trained. And so I'm sitting in the car, and I would like everyone that's capable to tap with me as I tell the story. So what we start off with is the karate chop point, which is like the meaty side of the hand. Okay. So I started off, I really hate this guy. I totally and completely love and accept myself, even though he is a real jerk. And I'm telling you, I used more stronger language, but we're in UCC, I'm not going to go there. I totally and completely love and accept myself. Even though that guy is such a jerk, I really can't stand him. I totally and completely love and accept myself. So what's happening right now is, by saying that, and you keep tapping, this is good. As I'm saying that, what's happening is it's bringing the ego to the forefront. Now our ego only has power when it's in the shadow, right? When it's in the background. It's coming up. And by saying, even though that guy's a real jerk, my ego's like, yeah, he is a real jerk. Yeah, right? And it's kind of getting a little bit bold, and it's coming to the front. And I'm also saying, I totally and completely love and accept myself. I'm also saying, I'm ready to open up to the other sides. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm setting it up. It's called a setup statement. So then we move to the top of the head. It's okay, nobody's looking, some of you might feel goofy, but just give it a try. He's a real jerk. And then we're the inside of the eyebrow. I can't stand that guy. And then the side of the eyebrow. Oh, I really hate him. And then under the eye. Why is he dressed like that? Seriously. Because your ego's just doing its thing. You're letting your ego vent. These thoughts are in there. I know, it's crazy. Just let them out. And then under the nose. I can't stand him. Down to the chin. I really don't like this guy. And I had some other words, but we'll keep those ones. They were in the car. I don't need to share them. And then I get down to the collarbone. And something started to happen. All of a sudden, my thoughts were not on what a jerk he was. My thoughts were on how, actually, I was kind of a jerk. So that was my thought. Oh, I'm actually always a jerk when I walk into the dentist office. And then I get to under the arm. In fact, I am the worst version of me that I could possibly be when I walk into the dentist office. And then we were going to tap our wrists together. And he's still smiling at me. Maybe he's not being pompous. Maybe he actually isn't being a jerk at all. Maybe it's me. So what's happening here, and keep tapping, what's happening here is, so the ego came to the front, it was doing its all macho thing, right? Yeah, he's a jerk. And it kind of like almost, in my mind, I see it as the ego gets distracted from having a grasp on all of those non-essential brain functions, right? It stops, it releases those non-essential brain functions and it allows them to come through. Okay? And that's what's happening. All of a sudden I was feeling compassion. I was seeing the other side of the story. So then I get to the karate chop and I'm still tapping. The ego's not done yet. Well, why does it have to cost so much money? So now the ego's back. So back to the top of the head. It is so expensive. Inside eyebrow. And they've got their new facility and they're rubbing it in. And he's wearing his nice watch under the nose. And I'm spending all this money down to the chin. And I don't understand. Why does it cost so much money? And then, come on down. And, it wasn't exactly literally I tapped a few times of ventings, but for the purpose of this talk, And then something wonderful happened. And I remembered how years ago, I decided to try to find another dentist. A dentist that was more reasonable with the price. And I found out that my dentist was charging me probably half of what every other dentist was charging. So I remembered that day, because I had conveniently forgotten. And then go to under the arm. And remember that time it was supposed to be $870, and he said, just give me $800. Remember that time? And then, I remember the other time he said, well, why don't you just pay me whatever you can? Remember that time? And remember how you were such a jerk? And remember how he was so nice? Do you remember that? So what happened was, all right, so everybody just take a deep breath. So you guys just moved all your energy through your body, which is awesome. So what happened was, I come up with the ego's doing its thing. It was probably 10 to 15 minutes of me doing this tapping. I went from honestly feeling as awful as I could about a person to feeling love and appreciation and gratitude towards him, and towards the whole office. Okay? So you'd think that would be enough, because that's pretty great, right? It completely shifted the way I looked at him. But the best part is the following Tuesday, I brought my 2 younger children to the dentist. And one of my daughters has always struggled with the dentist, and I can't stress enough the level of anxiety. Always an extreme negative experience, always. In fact, if we would have to fill a cavity, which we pretty much always had to fill a cavity, they would have to use gas because she wouldn't just sit in the seat. It's just, we don't even like to use Tylenol, and we're giving her, it was just extreme. So we get to the dentist, and I didn't walk in like this, all ticked off, right? I walked in open and happy and excited and appreciative for these amazing people. And we're sitting there in the waiting room, and the hygienist comes out and says, who wants to go first? And it was always a fight. It was always not me, from my daughter. But this day she said, I'll go. And the hygienist and I looked at each other. We exchanged a look, and then I realized that, this hygienist has probably been building herself up, like, I gotta work on her mouth later on today, And she kind of had this look. So a few minutes later I went in and I checked on them. And she's in the chair and she's delightful and everything's fine. And the hygienist said, geez, do you think I could get pictures of your teeth today? Because we had never gotten x-rays, because that would involve her sitting in the chair and not being hysterical, And she said, sure, let them do all the x-rays, never complained. And then the dentist comes in and says, well, she does have 2 cavities. They do need to be filled. You'll have to make an appointment with the pediatric dentist, because that's what we've always had to do, because they've had to use the gas and everything else. And my daughter says, you can just do it now. And at this point, the hygienist and I are looking at each other like, whoa. Now I know what's different, but nobody else does. Everybody else is like, who is this kid? The dentist, honest to goodness, she didn't say it out loud, obviously, so my daughter wouldn't hear, but she shook her head and mouthed, and she said, not working on her mouth. That was how bad she's been in the past. That's how extreme. I can't describe to you how extreme it's been in the past. I am not working on her mouth. And the hygienist said, I'm telling you, she's a different kid. You can do this. So, fair enough. She comes out with that great big Novocaine needle. Like, how do they not have a smaller needle yet? I don't know. But, comes out with a big, fine, no problem. Filled the cavities, fine, no problem. Didn't even ask for a prize afterwards. There was nothing. We've been back for, I believe it's 3 cleanings now, and it's been fine. We did have one visit to the dentist that was different, and they had to do the mouth guard. That's terrible for everybody, and she was a little stressed about that, but really, no more than any normal person would. It's a complete shift has happened. So, here I am, understanding the amygdala, and understanding that this pretty much always comes back to your childhood, to whatever you stored. So I'm trying to figure it out. Where did this come from? Because when I was a child, I loved going to the dentist. I never had a cavity. I never had a problem. The dentist was fun. I liked the waiting room. I liked the toys. It was never an issue. So I kept replaying, the average dentist visit in my childhood. And the more I thought about it, the more I remembered my mother standing at the counter to write the check, to book the next appointment. And I don't think she said anything. But I can feel it. If I put myself in that place right now where I'm imagining my mother at the desk, I can feel her anxiety. You guys know what that feels like, right? When you know someone else is feeling, this is a lot. And I remember feeling that the dentist was a sacrifice. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. So my amygdala, what it did, my ego, it stored it in my brain, and it kept it dormant, just hanging out there, waiting for the time for it to be relevant in my life. And sure enough, not until I had my 4 kids, and we didn't have dental insurance, and all of a sudden I'm writing out the checks to the dentist's office, and boom, that dentist is a jerk. And I'm so grateful for my daughter for being such a blessing and a teacher for me. Part of me wanted to beat myself up about it and say, geez, you let yourself be all stressed out, and your daughter experienced all these years of terrible experience at the dentist, but it's gone now, it's over. And I don't think I would have ever grasped the magnitude and the power behind tapping. I don't think I ever would have kept trying to learn more and figure out why. So now that I understand that the amygdala is your ego, and that it's actually just, very technically, it's just shutting down these tools, these channels that spirit communicates to us through our mind. And it doesn't have to be a big scary thing. It really doesn't, because just by tapping, we release that. We open it up. So, let me see. Next week, Karen Morgan is having, is Karen Morgan here? She's not here, okay. She's having a workshop on tapping for depression. So if anyone's interested in learning more about that, you could do that. I'm having a workshop here in August. We're gonna do it focused on physical pain, and my goal is just for everybody to walk away and be able to tap on their own at home. So we do it for physical pain in a group, because nobody has to feel embarrassed or anything like that. We can just do it for the physical pain, and you can take it home and apply it to anything you'd like. But if anyone has any questions or anything like that after the service, please feel free to come up and ask me. I'd love to answer any questions or give you any help or any assistance with the tapping. And I just really want to thank all of you for being a part of my vision, for making this really become a reality. It's exciting. And allowing me to share this tool that allows you to really tap into spirit. Thank you.